Hello, everyone. Hello and welcome. We'll be getting started in just a minute here, but welcome to the Investigation Clinic for Member Auditors. If you have any AI, please turn that off. We want to make sure that this is that we're just saving seats for auditors to join. So please disable any of your AI, and if it's joined in with you, please exit out of the AI. All right. Well, I want to make sure we start on time so that we can cover all of the great things we have to share with you today. So let me first say hello, everyone, and welcome to the Investigation Clinic for Member Auditors, presented by APSCA's Professional Conduct Team. We are thrilled to have you here today as our APSCA member auditors. The session is designed to support you, our valued member auditors, and we will share insights and practical tips to offset ethical threats in the audit environment, and will remind you when and how to report ethics concerns with confidence. Before we get started, let's go over a couple of housekeeping items. Attendees' cameras and microphones are off during the session, and we're going to keep our cameras off for most of the session too, to eliminate lag and also help you focus on the slides. In order to receive full CPD credit for the session, you will need to participate in poll questions coming up in the second half of the session, and we'll have some guidelines around how to use the polls very soon for you. So I'd like to take a look at today's agenda and give you an idea of what we're going to cover today. It's filled with engaging and informative sessions to bring you the most information around both the investigation process and how to effectively manage ethical threats in the audit environment in line with APSCA's code. We have a lot to cover, so let's make the most of our time together today. Again, if you you'll find that the chats are disabled on the call, but you can put messages for us into the Q&A. We will be compiling all of your questions. We will not have a Q&A open session today because we want to make sure we give you a full hour of CPD, which will be the second half of the call or second portion of the call. And we will definitely be circulating out all of the slides, a link for the recording, and a link for the Q&A summary from both sessions. We'll put everything together. We had a session this morning with over 800 auditors. It was at 12 hours ago, so it was a different time zone. And if you attended that session, this session is the same content, but you're welcome to sit through it again, and we hope that you continue to learn with us. So let's go ahead and move into meeting the professional conduct team. We're here in case you ever need to report a concern or need specific support for integrity issues. So please reach out to us at ethics@theapsca.org with questions. We're not monitoring, the whole team is on the call today, so we're not monitoring your emails, but if you do send us an email today about access, please put those kind of questions into the Q&A, but we will be responding if you have questions following the session. So let's go ahead and meet the APSCA Professional Conduct team now. And I'm going to ask the team to turn on our cameras so we can say, hello, we exist, we're real people. And during the session, I'll introduce everybody. And for those of you who haven't met me yet, I'm Stephanie Reagan, and I have the pleasure of leading this amazing professional conduct team at APSCA. I'm joined by Ben Vituski, our code and compliance specialist. Ben's auditing and ISO experience helps us navigate the complexities of member firms' management systems, and he's instrumental to our remediation pathway for firms. Mary Beth Cooper is our code and compliance coordinator. She orchestrates communication and scheduling for the team, as well as being a primary investigator of ethics and integrity allegations. Rounding out our team is Lisa Cornell, APSCA's compliance manager, and she ensures APSCA's member firms meet compliance goals effectively by establishing improvement pathways for non-compliance. So thanks to the team for all of your help in preparing this outreach for our member auditors. And we're going to go ahead and go cameras down. But I would like to introduce you to a special guest speaker that we have today. Please join me in welcoming Effie Marinos. Effie is the chair of the disciplinary board, and she serves as an ethics advisor to APSCA. Her expertise in ethics and compliance focuses on responsible business through social compliance auditing. It's incredibly valuable to us and to our disciplinary boards, and we're honored to have her here with us today. And now I'll turn the presentation over to Mary Beth.
Hello, good afternoon, good morning to everyone. Welcome to APSCA's Investigations 101. Today, we'll dive into essential guidance and process review for investigations. We will share vital information for auditors who are engaged to have, who are alleged to have participated in unethical misconduct. We'll also do our best to bring more transparency to the overall process for auditor awareness and understanding. First, I'd like to take you through the steps of APSCA's investigation and disciplinary process. There are many micro steps along the way, but today we are just going to focus on the big picture. Step 1 and Step 2 address how APSCA processes an allegation when received. The PC team reviews the allegation to assess credibility, and if verified, a case number will be assigned. Otherwise, the case will be dismissed if found to be uncredible. Following the credibility verification, we will reach out to the firms to initiate the investigation. Not often, but in some cases, investigations are completed by a combination of APSCA programs or third parties. Upon receipt of the member firm investigation report and all related evidence, the PC team reviews the potential code violations, provides an official notice of allegation, and interviews related parties for a balanced view of the case. After reviewing data and evidence gathered, auditor statements, and all related case information, the PC team will determine which option is best for the next steps. Option 1, the PC team closes or addresses the allegation in a non-disciplinary manner for less egregious matters. Option 2, the case is referred to a review committee, which is a subset of the disciplinary board and has limited ability to provide sanctions. Option 3, the case will move to the disciplinary board, where a detailed case summary will be provided and the member auditor will have an option to attend the disciplinary session. After the disciplinary session and review, any sanctions will be communicated to associated firms and collaborative programs as appropriate. APSCA members do have the ability to appeal decisions of the DBMA. Appeal applications must be submitted to the PC team within 30 days of the disciplinary board's decision. I hope you now have a better idea of the investigation and disciplinary process. Now, I'd like to talk with you about a few important documents that the member auditors need to be familiar with during the investigation process. The PC team provides a notice of allegation, or NOA, to a member auditor to inform them that an allegation has been received. It outlines the next steps and deadlines. Keep in mind, some allegations might be false, but it's our duty to investigate thoroughly. You will receive a template to respond to the NOA called an Auditor Response Statement, or ARS. We rely on the ARS to ensure that your response becomes part of the case documentation and allows you to provide facts from your perspective. Completing this form honestly is imperative because any conflicts with evidence or testimony later could be considered a negative factor in this case. I'd also like to highlight the Letter of Expectation, or LOE. This document is used to notify you that the case has been closed without disciplinary action. The LOE is not punitive, but does require auditors to re-acknowledge the code by uploading a signed copy into their NAC profile. It's issued as a courtesy, emphasizing the importance of adherence to our standards. Please review the tips included on this slide for best results when you report an issue to APSCA. Remember, without all the essential facts related to your report, It may not be possible to fully investigate and the issue could persist. We encourage you to report your identity whenever you feel comfortable. Our team does redact identifying information whenever possible. We also welcome anonymous reporting from whistleblowers. APSCA takes whistleblower protection and zero retaliation very seriously. Thank you for letting me walk you through the process and documents for reporting to APSCA, as well as our investigation process. Now let's hear from Lisa to learn more about APSCA's investigation metrics. Thank you all.
Thanks, Mary Beth. As the data person for our team, I'd like to share some metrics with our member auditors today. One question that we receive fairly often is what type of allegations are reported to APSCA. So when we're looking at the top 7 types of allegations reported this year, the data indicates that the biggest trends in misconduct reported about our members show that audit integrity is being influenced by solicitation or acceptance of bribes or changes to audit findings due to pressure from third parties or firm personnel. Closely following the allegations of inducement are claims that APSCA members are carrying out non-compliant work that does not meet APSCA's requirements by misreporting attendance and or credentials. As a reminder, non-compliant audits do not meet APSCA standards. Auditors have a responsibility to make sure that every audit where their APSCA credentials are used is carried out in accordance with the code. Abuse of any of these requirements can lead to disciplinary action. As Ben will explain, the diversity in reporter types for allegations has grown over the past 2 years. Whereas in earlier days, APSCA received nearly 90% of reported allegations from firms, we're now seeing 10% from auditors and about 24% anonymous whistleblowers, some of which are auditors who want to remain anonymous. We'll be sharing a video with you later in the session to remind you of how and when to report allegations. You may be curious as to where allegations reported to APSCA are geographically focused. And this year we've received allegations from 19 different countries, with the greatest number of misconduct cases reported in India, China, and Vietnam. And so far this year, APSCA has opened around 270 cases. We brought over nearly 40 cases from 2024. And last year, we set a record of 325 total cases managed by the professional conduct team. It looks like at this stage, we're on track for similar numbers and possibly a new record this year. Finally, I'd like to share what case outcomes for the year look like. So the majority of cases are closed without any disciplinary action. We see 20 to 25% of cases are closed out with a non-disciplinary letter of expectation. A much smaller number of disciplinary reviews resulted in disciplinary outcomes for auditors, which include warnings, required training, suspension, and membership revocation. So that wraps up the investigation metrics. Now over to Steph to discuss the core roles and responsibilities of the professional conduct team.
Thank you, Lisa. I'd like to take a moment to highlight exactly how auditors can best work with the professional conduct team in relation to investigations. The professional conduct team does our best to capture all available evidence to present to the review committee or disciplinary board members who are responsible to substantiate an allegation and assign sanctions when appropriate. Think of our process as being similar to the functions you carry out in an audit. We review all available facts and evidence, and we put that information into a report. We rely on your full cooperation when you are under investigation or acting as a witness, or even being a reporter. And we expect you will provide correct and true information along with all available evidence so that the report can be complete and accurate. Now I'd like to turn things over to Ben, who will introduce the DRCMA to you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to highlight the DRCMA, or otherwise known as the Disciplinary Review Committee for Member Auditors. In 2023, APSCA initiated our Speak Up campaign, and as a result, we saw a 600% increase in the annual reported ethic cases. We also experienced a significant increase in auditors reporting ethical misconduct, up from around 5 to 10% to 35 to 45% of all the allegations received by APSCA. So we hear you, and we will continue to provide you with channels for safe reporting. As the volume of cases grew significantly, the professional conduct team needed to find a way to process cases in a more efficient manner. The DRCMA was formed to allow for the fastest processing of cases with lower risks to APSCA's membership and the overall industry. After a year-long pilot program, the professional conduct team integrated the DRCMA into our procedures and has continued to receive good feedback from auditors who have gone through the lighter disciplinary review process. Understanding the DRCMA is an important part of APSCA's disciplinary review process. I'd like to explain more how it works to benefit auditors. First, the type of cases which are eligible have to be low risk and meet specific criteria. Auditors should know that if they are not transparent or cooperative during the investigation process, or the allegation has deemed anything but low risk, then their case will not be eligible for the DRCMA and instead will be escalated to the DBMA. The DRCMA process is different from the DBMA as it is a document review only. The auditor does not appear in a live session like they would for a DBMA review. And the two greatest benefits for members are it's a streamlined process time frame, and there are limited sanctions available as outcomes. And while the appeals process is the same as the DBMA appeals process, requesting an appeal, conducting the review, having the outcome decided, and receiving a notification of the outcome, there is a key difference. The review and decision steps are conducted by another member of the DBMA instead of the appeals board. And just like the outcomes from the DBMA appeals board, the decision from the reviewer is final and cannot be appealed further. Now I'm going to turn over the time to Stephanie and Effie for some details about the disciplinary board to better help you understand the deliberation process.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Ben, for walking us through the DRCMA, which, as Ben said, is for the less egregious cases. And now we're going to talk about the more serious cases that go to the DBMA. So at this time, I'd like to invite Effie Marinos, the chair of the Disciplinary Board for Member Auditors, to join me and provide some insights from the DBMA. Hello, Effie. Welcome. Would you like to give our member auditors some insight into mitigating factors that may positively affect the decisions that the disciplinary board makes when evaluating cases?
Hello, Steph, and thank you very much for having me. As both a former auditor and a firm representative, I'm very pleased to connect with the member auditors in today's session. And understanding some do's and don'ts for the DBMA and appeals boards can certainly reduce stress and help the auditors navigate the disciplinary process. In these next 4 slides, you're going to find some key mitigating and aggravating factors. But we'll just focus on 1 or 2 key takeaways from each slide, as I know that the auditors are keen to start the upcoming interactive sessions of the clinic. So from these first 4 mitigating factors, I'd like to focus on member auditors who display full disclosure, openness, and active cooperation throughout the investigation process. This behavior really makes a positive impression and is key to showing a willingness to meet APSCA requirements. Leniency may also be considered by the DRCMA and the DBMA when auditors can adequately evidence that the misconduct in question was instructed by their supervisor or manager, or that the code violation was not intentional. In other words, it was a mistake. The Disciplinary Board and Review Committee do strive to find a balance between accountability and redemption. But there are, of course, some cases where the board determined that severe disciplinary outcomes are required based on the nature of the code violation and the auditor's overall professional conduct. In those cases, aggravating factors are usually present as well.
Thanks, Effie, for sharing some great points for auditors. Those were, again, the mitigating factors that help your case and can be a positive aspect. But as Effie recommended, I'm going to take a closer look at some of the aggravating factors which can present negative consequences for your cases. So looking over the slide here, in addition to a lack of professionalism, accountability, or cooperation, there's also providing false information, deliberately delaying the submission of documents, or refusing to provide requested evidence, which obstructs the board's ability to assess the matter fairly and signals a serious breach of ethical standards. Withholding this information erodes trust and can further harm the credibility of the auditor and brings a risk to not only APSCA, but the entire industry. Effie, are there other aggravating factors that the boards might take into consideration?
Well, of course, and there are a few more shown here that highlight some don'ts for the auditors. If auditors approach the process honestly, most of these aggravating factors are not going to come into play. So things like negatively influencing others or multiple occurrences of alleged violations. But I'd like to stress that auditors do have opportunities to make the best impact through their written or spoken statements.
That's great, Effie. And I think you hit a really great point on previously with the mitigating factors, and that is document. So if the auditors are able to provide evidence of those mitigating factors, it makes everything go much more smoothly. And if there's a contention to the allegation, it can really sway the decision toward the auditor's favor. And I believe today we've provided the member auditors with some helpful takeaways.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it is important, these points that you are sharing for the auditors. And it's really key that people come to us prepared and make sure that they have followed the rules and really do keep on track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can probably provide on this next slide some quick reminders to give them instances that we've seen in quite a few cases where auditors may have made matters worse for themselves when small steps in planning during the audit or investigation could have been handled differently. So to close out this part of our session today, we can highlight some best practices and reminders. And we've pulled a lot of these from the code, the APSCA code for auditors. So first, I'd like to say, let's make sure that every audit that you are a part of has a CSCA present for the full duration of the audit. Any audit that doesn't meet that basic APSCA standard is not a compliant audit. And then another important reminder for auditors is that APSCA scope includes integrity issues for all member auditors, even when the misconduct did not specifically occur during a social compliance audit. Effie, would you like to talk about any of the other reminders?
Yeah, absolutely. Auditors really must remember to review and understand the code before signing it. We've seen so many cases where people are claiming that they didn't understand or they didn't know. But once you've signed the APSCA code, your individual credentials and professional reputation depend on upholding it fully. And it's not received well when an APSCA member claims that they didn't know about it or that they were committing a clear code violation. Auditors should also know that the thresholds for substantiation by the DBMA boards, and they have to make a decision based on a standard of preponderance of evidence, which means, is it more likely than not that the issue has occurred? That puts a lot of weight on evidence presented to the professional conduct team during the investigation. Auditors can collect true, compelling evidence during their time on the audit, and having this evidence, and as we said, the document approach makes things a lot better. Developing habits that keep these true and accurate attendance records, including things like facility photos, logbook photos, etc., can show dates and parties clear attendance. Noting strange occurrences in your audit log and records is also key to protecting yourself later and to help you remember all the details of an audit. If you are falsely accused as an auditor, these steps can really help capture the details that may fade over time.
That's an amazing reminder for auditors to just be aware. If your spidey senses go off, make a note of it and keep it in your audit log, because if you transfer from one firm to another and you lose all of your previous communications and emails by making that transfer, you won't have the necessary information. Now, that doesn't mean save audit details that are confidential or proprietary outside of your firm's standards. Don't breach confidentiality, but you can easily make a note in your audit log that says, something was a little off here. I had an ethical question. You can even create some little codes for yourself around that. So let's see. Let's also warn auditors against attempting to conceal a violation. So if APSCA becomes aware that a member has reached out to parties involved in the investigation that might try to vouch for you or attempt to falsify or alter evidence, stronger disciplinary sanctions are likely to be considered.
Yes, absolutely. And sometimes the cover-up is worse than the actual violation. And this type of behavior is likely to end with revocation of APSCA membership. But the DBMA and DRCMA focus on case facts, evidence, mitigating and aggravating factors holistically. When auditors follow good practices, they safeguard their professional reputation and uphold industry standards.
What a great way to end this session. Thank you again, Effie, for supporting the many aspects of APSCA's disciplinary processes and for being here today for our member auditor outreach. As you can see, we house those on YouTube, so you can watch them anytime you like. So we hope you enjoyed the video, and we will now invite you all to participate in the next part of today's session, which again, I'm going to say it's highly interactive, it's fast paced, we have very little time to go between sessions, but we want to make sure we ask a lot of questions and get your feedback. So we are going to move on to the next slide, and a big part of our engagement today is focusing on best practices. So first, we're going to have a lightning round of poll questions to help us get to know you better and our whole entire member auditor group better, so that you can benchmark your responses with other attendees. And this portion of our Auditor Investigation Clinic is focused on professional development for member auditors across any ethical or integrity issues that you would encounter in the audit environment. And in order for CSCAs to earn CPD credit in this course and ASCAs to work toward building soft skills in ethics and integrity solutions, you will be participating in some fast-paced questions, and you need to participate in order to get credit. So again, I'm going to ask for your full attention and your participation. Lisa's going to walk you through a quick practice poll and explain the polls a little bit to you so that you can be sure you understand how to participate.
Hi again, everybody. So I'm going to test your poll skills with a bit of a warm-up question. So today we're going to ask you to let us know how many audits you conducted in the past 30 days. So the poll question should have popped up in the middle of your screen. And if it didn't, you should be able to access the polls either in the chat or by using the poll icon at the top of your screen. If you can't participate in the poll for some reason, once you've tried those two options, it could be that your organizational settings are preventing you from participating, but please continue to follow along because attendance is recorded. So we're asking, if you're unable to access the polls, please pop it into our Q&A So we are collecting all the information that goes into the Q&A, and we will be making sure that everybody who wasn't able to participate in the polls but actually sat through the entire session and participated from that perspective will earn CPD credits. So we've got so much ground to cover today, so we're going to be spending about 1 minute per poll question, and I think we will move on now to the next question.
All righty. So let's ask a poll question. Every auditor will probably witness ethical misconduct sometime in their career, particularly in social compliance auditing. Do you think you've reported every instance that you've encountered?
I'm not seeing the polls update. Let me just make sure I'm in the right place here to give you guys some feedback on these polls.
Yeah, I can see
did-
the answers here, Steph, and I can see that overwhelmingly 76% of people are saying yes. Yes, they have reported.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. And I really appreciate you jumping in on that one, Lisa. All right. Well, Lisa, do you want to take us to this next question?
Yeah, so not every person will report ethical misconduct for various reasons. So what are reasons that you didn't report all ethical situations? Now, keep in mind that it is your duty as an APSCA member to report integrity concerns to your firm.
Yeah, and I see that most people are reporting now lack of evidence as a primary reason. Any of these reasons could apply, and we do want to say, as far as a retaliation, that APSCA has a zero retaliation policy, and we do enforce that with our member firms. So that's another issue that if you ever do report and you feel that you have retaliation, we do ask that you report the retaliation. That's really important for us to track so that we can make sure that the firms are upholding that and helping APSCA meet that zero tolerance. And we have a clear winner, lack of evidence, and that's very auditor thinking. So thank you very much for your participation.
All righty. So while reporting ethical misconduct might seem difficult, APSCA and your firm have mechanisms to receive and handle complaints. Do you feel comfortable reporting concerns to your firm, or APSCA?
Wow, so far 100%, 96%. So those 4% we do understand you may not feel comfortable. Maybe after today's session, you'll feel a little bit more comfortable as you learn more about the process and about how and when to report.
And on that, I'm wondering if you feel more comfortable reporting ethical misconduct after learning about APSCA's processes today. So we've asked you to rate how you're feeling, your level of comfort after hearing our messaging in the previous part of this session. One is one little tick is not likely to report, whereas all the way up to 5 ticks is confident to report. Let us know how you feel about this.
And I see the answers are coming in a little bit toward the higher end of being comfortable, really high, 4.5. That's, I guess, a good Yelp rating. But we're in 4.6, so we really appreciate that. That's great. And we do still want to make everyone feel comfortable. So thank you very much for participating and responding on this poll.
Well, unfortunately, auditors may face undue pressure and threats from sources to accept unethical actions. Have you ever been pressured to accept or participate in ethical misconduct?
And to be clear, this doesn't mean that you did. It just means that you received pressure from somebody to engage in that conduct. And it seems like here we have a really high amount of auditors responding that they've never received any type of pressure to accept or participate in ethical misconduct. So that's good to hear. And those of you that have, we're going to talk about how to mitigate that today. And for those of you who think you haven't, but maybe you have, we're going to talk about that too.
So sometimes pressure to engage in ethical misconduct can come from different sources. So for those people who did say that they experienced pressure, which party applies the most pressure to remove or lower audit findings?
And it's okay if you haven't received pressure. If you answered the previous question no, you can still gauge to who you think would provide the most pressure. And I think the answers are coming in such that the audit facility personnel are an overwhelming leader here. I don't know if you're individually tracking this response, but we're up to 56, 59%. It's been kind of going back and forth in that range. So we'll talk to you today specifically around how to deal with pressure from audit personnel. Audit facility personnel.
So we know that your work as a social compliance auditor can sometimes be difficult, especially considering pressure from auditees to pass the audit. Has your safety ever been at risk or threatened because you refuse to change a finding for the auditee?
Yeah, we've had some experiences even with the APSCA staff who were former auditors who had been locked into rooms or had their ability to leave a facility impeded upon. So those are the type of things that we're talking about for safety, or if you've ever received a threat against your safety for not changing a finding. And it looks like for the most part, auditors on this call have not been receiving threats to their safety, which makes us extremely happy. And again, we'll give you some ways to mitigate that and work on that for those of you that may encounter that.
While auditors are expected to uphold the highest ethical standards, there are some situations where auditors may witness unethical conduct within their own audit team. So please, tell us the most likely reason that you think reporting misconduct of your team member would not happen.
I think the auditors on our session here are indicating majority that they would report. But out of those that say that yes, it's a possibility regarding reporting that they would feel pressure around their job being at risk or having problems with a coworker. So those are really important areas to have to deal with on a personal level in the audit and can be frustrating. But just keep in mind that you can report anonymously to APSCA, and we are here to provide you with reporting channels. And you can always go through the ethics reporting channels at your firm first and work with the ethics team there as well. They will offer you confidentiality and anonymity whenever it's appropriate.
So we've established that ethical misconduct must be reported either through your ethics channel or to APSCA in a timely manner. So what do you think happens when unethical conduct is not reported? Do you think that unreported ethical issues are likely to happen again? And how do you think if this affects the social compliance auditing ecosystem and the overall reputation of auditors? So for this question, we're just looking for a yes or no. So do you think it's likely to reoccur and cause problems in the future?
I think everyone, for the most part, feels like that does happen. And it looks like we have about 95, 94% that are saying yes, it would recur or potentially. And I think that that's true if you think about how ethical reporting and findings for audits, if you miss an important finding in an audit, if you don't report a finding, it is more than likely going to continue and will recur at that facility. So this is very similar in nature.
So we'd like to learn a little bit more about our audience as well and your employment type. So please select the description that best represents you.
I would say it's close to 50-50. We have slightly more employees on the call than subcontractors and freelancers. And we're going to talk a little bit more going forward about other impressions around those two groups.
So keeping in mind this, How do you feel expectations for reporting and good ethical behavior are applied to different types of auditors? Do you feel that subcontractors and employees have the same ethical expectations and reporting requirements, or different?
And your previous question may really reflect in this answer as to how you look at this. But since we're pretty evenly split, we're again really super evenly split on higher and greater. But most people on the call are stating that there are equal expectations. So that's good to know.
And even more importantly, who do you believe is most likely to be pressured in the audit environment? So thanks for answering these few questions about perceptions tied to auditor types. Because APSCA applies equal expectations for professional conduct, including reporting standards for all auditors, regardless of your employment arrangement, location, or other demographics. But as we review your answers, it's interesting to study your valuable perceptions.
Yeah, I think this is a really similar response profile to the previous question. Um, it does indicate there was a high 80% response rate for the equal pressure for both. And then employees and subcontractors are pretty even. Employees just edging out subcontractors a little bit more. So great to hear your responses.
Yeah, so you did great on all these polls. It's very interesting. So now we're going to move on to the next section, and we're going to introduce an important tool that can help auditors as you face situations that we just discussed. So over to you, Steph.
Thanks so much, Lisa and Ben, for all those great poll questions, and thanks to the member auditors for jumping in and telling us a little bit about you. We will cover a lot of those issues by presenting this new action plan, and we're going to transition into that right now to help you address some of those ethical challenges when they arise. I'm sure you see the red cape, the superhero cape in the background here, and that's because you are all super auditors. But do you have a super action plan in place to know exactly what steps to take if you face ethical dilemmas in the audit environment? Let's take a look at an action plan that the professional conduct team designed, especially for you to have a powerful silent weapon with you when you encounter integrity issues. And remember, if you stay ready, you won't have to get ready. Or maybe in this case, if you have ready, you won't have to get ready on the spur of the moment. The Integrity Reporting Action Plan we've designed for our member auditors is abbreviated as FREDDY, F-R-E-D-D-Y, and is intended to empower auditors and provide easy to follow steps that can turn a negative experience into a more positive situation. Mary Beth, could you walk us through a quick overview of FREDDY?
Yes, of course I can. It's crucial for every auditor to have an action plan to rely on. Today, we're going to focus on simple mnemonic device, FREDDY, which stands for 6 essential steps you should remember. First, F, flag the threat. It's about recognizing when something feels off and knowing that you need to take action. This is the best alert that something might be wrong. Next, remember your ethics training and standards, which are your guiding principles. They help us stay true to our values even under pressure. Then E, evaluate your safety. This involves assessing the situation to ensure that you and others are not in immediate danger. Safety is always a priority. Please remember that. Next is D. You should decide on the best response. Here, consider your options and choose the most appropriate course of action to handle the situation effectively. Fifth, D. Document the incident. Keeping a detailed record is crucial for transparency and accountability. And finally, why? Use your voice for reporting. It's necessary to speak up and ensure that the incident is reported to the right channels for further action. Let's take a closer look at each step. Step number 1 is flag the threat. The first thing to do is calmly assess the situation. Flagging the threat is your first line of defense. So trust your instincts and stay observant.
And in an ethical audit dilemma, consider these instinctive responses provided. Before you do anything else, you have to flag the threat. Basically, acknowledge that the issue has come up and start your action plan. Which of these options, which are all good options, would you first do when you flag a potential ethics issue?
So I can see the poll answers starting to come in. So if you have an opportunity to complete the discussion point poll question, we're just sort of getting the conversation going about how you would first recognize a potential ethical dilemma. So the majority of people are suggesting that we continue to gather facts before reacting, Steph.
Great. And I'll try to read the questions a little bit better here going forward, but thank you so much for that. It looks like B, continue to gather facts before reacting, which again is really strong auditor behavior. Like, no wrong answers here, just find one of these ways to start your process.
Okay, let's go on to step 2. Now that we've identified potential threats, let's move on to step 2, which is remembering ethics standards. This is crucial in any audit situation. It's important to reflect on your training, your company's requirements, the program standards you're expected to uphold, and most importantly, the APSCA code.
Well, upholding your standards is key, and you can use any of these ideas to help you accomplish this task. You can refer to the APSCA code for ethical standards. You can stay firm in your findings and document your rationale for transparency. You can seek support from your firm or team lead for collaboration. And you can also engage in respectful dialogue, but never compromise your findings. So choose one of these steps that you could infuse into your action plan. These steps will help you maintain professional integrity as an independent auditor despite challenges. All of them are good practices, and you may carry out more than one or all of them.
Because we've only given you the option to choose one today, we're just going to look at the strongest contender at this point, and it's looking like referring to the APSCA code is in the lead. Engaging in respectful dialogue, but do not compromise findings, is also a great strategy to employ. Seeking support from your firm or team lead, that's a great idea. And remaining firm and documenting your rationale comes back to the document approach.
Absolutely. Well, we have one more question under step 2, and this is again thinking back to all the training you've received and key lessons that you've accomplished in your experience as an auditor. So, which of those would you pull from your history to guide you when pressured to compromise audit integrity? Would you trust your training to navigate challenges confidentially? Would you remember integrity as non-negotiable and defines independent auditors? Would you use reporting and escalation processes for support when you do feel pressure? Or would you rely on accurate reporting, which ensures transparency and protects all involved?
So we've got about half of the responses in so far, and lots of people have chosen integrity is non-negotiable. So 65% of people are indicating that. And then around the 18% is accurate reporting protects all.
Okay, step 3. In step 3, we're going to focus on your safety. It's crucial to remember that your well-being is always the top priority. When faced with a threat, retreating safely should be your immediate course of action if necessary. Remember, safeguarding yourself is not just an option, but a necessity.
Absolutely. And we would like to emphasize the importance of auditor safety in all situations, whether you're considering that during your travel or auditing or even after an audit. You can use any of these possible situations to protect yourself. But pick your favorite. You can stop work if you're feeling unsafe. You can keep your home office updated on your activities. And then it's also good to let your loved ones know where you're going to be in general and have a regular check-in time every day with your family. Use a safety code word for discrete distress signals. You can even use Freddie. If you call into your office and start talking about Freddie, they'll know that you are subtly sending them a message that you don't feel safe. And maybe you can even have a Freddie protocol with your team. You can keep your phone accessible with you to make sure you can always call and get help. And when you go into a facility or you're on a location, stay alert and be aware of your exit routes. Remember, safety is a necessity, not just a priority.
So, Steph, the answers to this discussion poll are really interesting. It was almost evenly split across all the options at one point, but the one at the top is stop work if needed. Around 30% of participants are suggesting that that's the course of action that they would choose, and they feel that that's the measure that would protect them the most. We're seeing that people like the use of a safety code word like Freddie. And keeping the home office updated on activities. These are really strong ideas that could protect you if you're in danger.
Well, good. Hopefully we gave some new ideas to you today because we definitely want to make sure that our member auditors are staying safe.
Okay, let's talk about step number 4, decide. This is a pivotal moment. When you're faced with a request related to safety, it's crucial to determine whether to agree or disagree. This decision should always prioritize your safety and integrity.
So when you're faced with factory management requesting you to omit sensitive findings, consider these options. How would you react? Always disagree immediately without considering context. Evaluate the situation, then decide based on APSCA standards and your firm's policy. Negotiate a middle ground to keep both sides satisfied, or escalate right away without reviewing options. Focus on maintaining ethics while considering the broader context. And I think almost everybody got my favorite answer. Evaluate the situation and then decide based on APSCA standards and firm policy. So I think that that's a great approach. In other cases, you may have to consider some of these other options. So just keep in mind as you're developing your action plan, how you can implement different strategies in different situations. Have your default strategy and then other potential strategies in case you need to remain flexible.
Okay, in step 5, we will focus on the important task of documenting our findings. This step is all about recording the facts promptly and accurately. Finally, remember that through documentation supports the integrity of the audit process. It's not just about compliance, it's about upholding our ethical standards.
So let's look at our discussion point question here. When documenting, and I just want to say document. When documenting an ethical dilemma during an audit, your main focus should be to record objective facts without making assumptions. It's essential to include all perspectives, consider the voices of workers, management, and auditors. So let's take a look at this question. When documenting an ethical dilemma encountered in an audit, what is your first priority? Record objective facts with no assumptions. Include all perspectives. note any pressures or conflicts of interest, or ensure confidentiality and integrity of evidence. All of these are really great. Again, you want to make those part of your action plan when appropriate, but which one calls out to you?
And keep in mind that Effie's previous comments in the first section of this session is to make these observations in your audit log so that you always have a record of when you felt that there was an ethical dilemma happening, and just in case it's called into question at a time in the future. So we can see that lots of people are choosing to record objective facts with no assumptions. We're around 55% there of participants have chosen that option, and ensuring confidentiality and integrity of evidence. So and also a reminder that not to breach confidentiality when you're recording things in your audit log book.
Those are great tips, Lisa. Thank you so much. I think that remember, recording objective facts is really important, but putting your feelings or thoughts into a separate log or diary, again, not compromising any confidentiality around that particular audit, might be a good resource for you to go back to if ever you have to recall the facts of an audit later.
Okay, everyone, finally, we have come to step 6, which is your voice. As a member auditor, your voice matters. Speaking up when you encounter ethical misconduct is not only a reflection of your personal integrity, but also a professional responsibility. It is important to remember that reporting ethical misconduct is a code requirement. Timeliness is crucial. Delays in reporting can compromise investigations and weaken trust. Your responsibility is clear. All suspected misconduct must be reported, regardless of perceived severity. By using your voice, you not only uphold the APSCA Code of Professional Conduct, but you also reinforce the values of accountability, transparency, and trust that are the heart of the auditing profession.
So as we go through the discussion points here, I want to take a moment to focus on what you see as most critical when reporting ethical dilemmas. Now, again, all of these things are points to consider. Just select the one that resonates most and means the most to you. And also keep in mind exactly what Mary Beth just said about the integrity being the heart of the auditing profession. But really, auditors are the heart, right? And we want your voice to be heard, not just to APSCA, but across the industry. So when you help us understand what we can do better, we'll work with the industry and stakeholders to try to bring your voice to encourage change. And in that way, we want to bring some empowerment to auditors. You work so hard, and we really appreciate what you do. We want to make sure that that voice translates out to everybody. So let's look at the question. Sorry, I got all happy thinking about the auditors. There are several key areas to consider. Timelines of the report. So this ensures that issues are addressed promptly. You want to prevent further complications or recurring issues. Accurate and complete details, providing a full picture, helps in understanding context and addressing the dilemma effectively. Maintaining confidentiality. It's crucial. Again, we've mentioned it a few times, but we want to make sure that it's part of our job as APSCA and your job as auditors to protect sensitive information and the identities of those that are involved. Also, don't forget the importance of following both firm and APSCA protocols to ensure the process adheres to professional standards. And lastly, ensure that you are helping out your community and your peers by warning others of threats. And you can do that through your firm by talking to your managers there and raising issues or bringing it to APSCA. Lisa, how are we doing on the poll?
Yeah, the polls are really interesting, and you can tell, like it's very hard to choose which one of these options is the most critical. But the majority of auditors have suggested following firm and APSCA protocols is the most critical choice when reporting ethical dilemmas. So it's great to see that people feel that they're supported by firm and APSCA code requirements, and that you're able to see that as a critical factor when you're reporting.
Yeah, I think that's really great to point out too that I think Effie brought it up even earlier when she mentioned that once you sign the code, you're responsible for all the components of the code. So make sure that you refer back to that and read that code when you have some downtime. I know how busy auditors are, but make sure that you understand and know what your reporting responsibilities are and that you're reporting every perceived ethical misconduct through the right ethical reporting channels within your firm or within APSCA. So let's look at our next question. If you we'll look a little more closely at ways to share ethical concerns and use your voice. Have you already considered what options are available? If you encounter an ethical dilemma during an audit, how would you share the experience? Would you contact your firm's ethics team? Would you raise it anonymously through reporting channels at your firm or APSCA? Would you engage APSCA directly and just look at our guidance and resources for the certain topics that we have on our website for you? Would you discuss informally with peers to build answers? So sharing your concerns with your firm's ethics team or raising them anonymously guarantees that the issue is handled formally and confidentially. Informal discussions with peers can raise awareness, but again, they should always be approached carefully to protect confidentiality and integrity. So
Stephanie, I have
Lisa,
a question. I have a question real
yes.
quick. If one of our member auditors wants to raise anonymously through APSCA's reporting channels, how would they go about doing that? How would they hide their identity? Do they need to make up an email account? Do they ask a friend to send the email for them to report? Or could they possibly just request our team to remain anonymous?
Yeah, that is a wonderful question. And I know you're always thinking about our process and how to help auditors through it, Mary Beth. So excellent question. Um, I would say that you probably don't want to engage a friend or a third party because, again, we're concerned about the confidentiality and the integrity of information. But you can easily go in and create a Gmail account or something like that if you wanted to report anonymously. But if you ask APSCA to keep your information confidential, we do that. When we report an issue after an allegation's been received, we send it to the firm to do the initial investigation most of the time. And when that happens, we remove the name of the email address, we take out the signature information of the reporter, and we anonymize it unless the firm has already specifically been copied in. If they've already been copied in, then we send it to our ethics contact and at the firm and let them know, hey, you've already been copied on this. So obviously the reporter is alerting both of us at the same time. But that's our standard procedure. And the reason that we do that is to protect the identity of the auditor, to always make sure that we're in keeping up a zero retaliation and less likely that the auditor would then be challenged or face any negative repercussions.
Okay,
And
great.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways that you can report to us. The best way to reach out to us is ethics@theapsca.org. And one thing that I would also just point out that a lot of auditors and members don't realize, and that's that if you copy in director at theapsca.org, it goes to a whole bunch of people. It doesn't necessarily go to the ethics team. It has to be forwarded to us. So that means that some of your confidentiality and integrity is lost. It doesn't mean that anyone's sharing that information outside of APSCA, but if you send the information directly to ethics@theapsca.org, you will reach only the professional conduct team who is trained on handling investigations, and we will make sure that your information's always kept confidential.
Wonderful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, great question.
Do we have any poll updates on this one?
Yes, I do. I do. We've got a lot of auditors have suggested sharing with your firm's ethics team is their first course of action. And then followed by engaging APSCA guidance and resources. So as you know, we on our website, we do have some guidance and resources on how to tackle ethical dilemmas. And we do have our Speak Up videos. So we actually have several of them now for you to access and just have a quick reminder of how to report and when to report. So there's all those channels there. So we've got a couple of people did choose raise anonymously through reporting channels, which is good to see. And nobody has decided to discuss it informally with peers.
That's great. I think that all those responses are so helpful to us, and going with your firm's ethics team is a really great first step. And if, again, you feel like you need to copy an APSCA or let us know, we're here for that as well. But we'll be working with your firms, and we work directly with the ethics team, which is typically located in your corporate office or corporate area. Then you may have some regional ethics people that are, depending on how large your firm is, that are in your area as well. But thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed meeting Freddie today. And let's go ahead and give you a reminder of all the components of his name, so that you can remember Freddie when working on an action plan or struggling with a challenge that you face in the audit environment. So flag, remember, evaluate, decide, document, and use your voice. And remember, Freddie keeps you ready. So we hope you enjoyed the Freddie section. That was a new invention for us this quarter that we wanted to roll out. And you can let us know, email or in the feedback survey what you like. And if you really like Freddie and want to keep him around, let us know. All right. Oh, good. I see some love for Freddie in the reactions. Thank you very much. So this section we're going to move into. Congratulations, you've made it to the very final section of our session today. We have 10 questions today to test your understanding of key lessons for member auditors. So this is a self-graded exercise. You can just keep track. Just assign yourself about 10 points for every right question. We are going to give you the answers as we go through these as well. Unlike the Freddie questions, we have one right answer. So usually three wrong answers, only one right answer. And let's get into our first question. It is, which of the following best represent your responsibility after encountering an integrity challenge during an audit? When do you need to report? Only report if the incident has affected audit results. Report promptly through management and ethics channels, regardless of perceived impact. Share informally with colleagues, but avoid official reporting. Or handle it yourself so that there aren't any messy complications. So we're going to give you a second to answer. I think we have a really big winner. We had 100% on answer B. Wow. And I want to say that's the right answer. So you guys are on top of it. Report promptly through your management and ethics channels, regardless of that perceived impact. And that's important because reporting ethical misconduct promptly and when all details are fresh is the best practice. This gives the firm and APSCA time to address the issue and ensure less chance of reoccurrence.
Okay, our next question covers responsibilities for auditors. If you witness or have knowledge of an audit team member or other audit firm personnel engaging in ethical misconduct, which of the following is not your responsibility as an APSCA member? We have A, report all suspected misconduct immediately. B, follow firm and APSCA reporting procedures. C, escalate to leadership or compliance, not peers. D, maintain documentation of what you observed. And E, discuss with peers.
And
All right,
remember,
y'all,
this is a
remember.
trick question. Remember,
Yes,
it's not.
Be sure to select the option that is not your responsibility as an APSCA member. I'm going to give everyone a second to answer. And the correct answer is E, discuss with your peers. Remember, options A, B, C, and D answers are actual responsibilities of member auditors, whereas discussing with your peers can sometimes present confidentiality issues that as we've discussed earlier. So it's better just to follow the specific expectations and requirements of your firm when advising any other parties.
Great, let's go on to question 3. And don't worry if you're getting these answers wrong, it's okay, but make sure you're keeping score for yourself. Let's see, when you remember let's see if you remember what we covered in relation to compliant audits. If an audit team member is assigned an audit, but does not attend full hours and days scheduled, has an APSCA code violation occurred? Can CSCAs partially attend audits? So let's take a look at these answers. CSCA failure to attend the full audit is a code violation. Partial attendance is acceptable if the auditor advises the team. Only if the client complains is it a problem, or CSCAs can choose which days of the audit they'd like to attend and not attend. I'm going to give you a second to answer this one.
I think this is one of the most important ones myself.
Well, remember when Lisa showed us the metrics, and she said the first leading allegation we receive is inducement. The second, which was enormous, like almost half of our allegations, come up to the issue of whether or not an audit is properly attended. And not only that, but we do have a compliance pathway that gets monitored for the firms.
That's
So
correct.
compliance is a really big key for us. And I think that, Mary Beth, are you ready to tell them the answer?
Yes, I am. The correct answer is, drum roll, A. The CSCA
And
failure to attend the full audit is a code violation.
And I can see almost everybody got that. So just remember, whether you're an ASCA team auditor or you're a CSCA, you're responsible for reporting that audit back to your firm and potentially to APSCA as non-compliant if there is not a CSCA fully present on every day of the audit from start to finish during the workday. All right. Ben, would you like to take question 4?
Sure. So our next question will help reinforce some of the auditor recommendations that we shared earlier in the session. So does a code violation occur if an auditor accepts a bribe during an environmental or other non-social compliance audit conducted on behalf of the APSCA member firm? 1, no, the code only covers social compliance auditing. B, yes, but only if accepting a bribe is illegal. 3, or C, yes, but only if the bribe changes the audit results. And D, yes, accepting a bribe is always a code violation.
It looks like we have a clear winner here. Again, a really, really strong response for option D.
That is correct.
Yay!
D is the correct answer, and the APSCA code states that APSCA expects members to demonstrate a high standard of ethics. So accepting a bribe in any condition, whether or not it's social compliance or ISO, environmental or quality audits, accepting a bribe means you have jeopardized your high standards of ethics.
Yeah, I think too that we want to point out to the auditors that we've seen a lot of cases that we've approached the auditor and told them, hey, here's an allegation, and they come back to us immediately and say, oh, that doesn't count. It's not a social compliance audit. And in actuality, I think that does, again, like Effie said, if you say, oh, I didn't know it was a code violation, or it doesn't apply to me, or those types of things, that it can be one of those aggravating factors. So keep that in mind. And then Lisa, would you like to take the next question, number 5?
Sure, Steph. So for question number 5, when can APSCA member auditors be placed on temporary administrative suspension during the course of an investigation? Now, it's very key to know your rights and responsibilities as a member auditor if you do come under investigation for whatever concerns. So for A, when can you be placed on this suspension? Is it when preliminary evidence suggests serious misconduct? Is it B, when the auditor engages dishonestly with the investigation team? Is it C, auditor misses assigned deadlines? Is it D, the auditor misrepresents their investigation status to an APSCA member firm during hiring? Or is it E, all of the above? So I'm going to give you a moment to answer those, to think about this one and give us your answers. Remember, there's only one correct answer.
We have another landslide here on the answers. Everybody's leaning toward all of the above.
Which, of course, is the correct answer. Well done, everybody.
Great job. So one thing I wanted to say about this is where we mostly see this occur. Of course, if it's a really serious issue, there's nothing that you can do about going on administrative, going on a temporary or administrative suspension, because we'll have no choice but to do that. But if there is something you can really control as an auditor, is making sure that you're checking your emails, making sure that your email is updated properly to your primary email in NAC, because sometimes auditors leave firms and they leave their old, they've disassociated from the firm, they moved on, but they left that old email in there. So we do see some people who miss their deadlines because we were sending it to an email, your only email in the system, it's our only way to communicate with you, and you didn't get that notification. And there's certain deadlines in all the notifications of the documents that Mary Beth presented earlier, the NOA, the LOE, the ARS, all of our abbreviated documents. So make sure that you're checking those emails, but most importantly, and not just your email, make sure you're keeping your profile updated properly in NAC, because we rely on the information in there to reach out to you. All right. Mary Beth, would you like to take us through question 6?
Yes, I will.
And I just got a
means-
notification. We're running a little behind on time, probably because we're trying to squeeze in so many tips, but let's get these last few questions done in the next 10 minutes.
Okay, we can do that. And we are halfway there. To question number 6. This is our knowledge check. If a facility manager says, we need this audit completed in half the time, so just skip the worker interviews and focus on the factory tour, what is the correct Freddie step to apply first? A, decide immediately to skip interviews. B, flag the request as a threat to audit integrity. C, document after finishing the shortened audit. And D, escalate directly to APSCA. I'm going to pause shortly. Hopefully everyone's getting their answers.
I think I'm going to give them a little tip. Freddie starts with an F. First step.
All right.
Overwhelmingly, we have answer B. Flag the request as a
Okay.
threat to audit integrity, which is the right answer.
Correct. Yes.
Great
That's
job.
wonderful. You'll need to conduct the other Freddie action plan steps to manage the threat.
That's right. Don't just stop at flagging. So Lisa, would you mind taking us through number 7?
Sure, Steph. So for knowledge check number 7, what does revocation of an auditor's APSCA membership really mean? So just select one of these options and let's run through the options. So the first option is permanent loss of membership credentials and inability to work for APSCA member firms in any capacity related to social compliance audit services. The second option is an auditor suspended until completion of ethics training. For option C, auditor is eligible to continue auditing after resitting APSCA exams. Or option D, the auditor can rejoin APSCA automatically after an extended timeout period. So which of these do you think means when an auditor is revoked from APSCA membership?
We do have an overwhelming lean in the responses toward A, which is the right answer. So if you're revoked, you have a permanent loss of membership credentials and you cannot work for an APSCA member firm in any capacity related to social compliance audit services. Revocations are permanent. They cannot be reversed. They are decided once the disciplinary board, or if you decide to appeal, the appeals board finalizes their decision. It's a one and done. There is not an ability to return back. And we do receive a lot of questions from auditors that have been revoked saying, okay, I'd like to come back. And unfortunately, APSCA's framework does not allow us to consider that option. And that's why it's really important to participate properly in these investigation processes so that when you do reach the disciplinary board, you have more mitigating factors that help make your case more positive. And remember, you can refer back to those slides. We will be sending them out, but focus on making good choices with those mitigating factors.
Yes, the ineligibility to reapply, it ties into the fact that you were found once to be in your professional conduct was found lacking judgment so much that you had to be revoked. Therefore, you don't have the same professional conduct to rejoin APSCA. It's already been jeopardized.
Absolutely. And like Lisa said earlier, make sure you know the code and know your rights as an auditor, because that's something that really affects people who go through the disciplinary process and don't expect to have a harsh outcome, but then are surprised that they are revoked. Okay, we are running a little tight on time. Let's get through these next few questions.
Okay.
Ben, do you want to take this next one?
Yes. What steps should a member auditor take when instructed by a senior auditor or a supervisor to compromise an audit and potentially violate the code? A, follow the manager's instructions to avoid conflict. B, flag and report through proper ethical channels. C, ignore it unless the client complains. Or D, handle it privately with the supervisor without reporting.
We have an amazingly sharp group here. Almost everyone logged in already to state that flagging and reporting through proper ethics channels was their option of choice. Item B, do you want to reveal the right answer, Ben?
And that is correct. B is the correct answer. You are to flag and report through the proper ethic channels. And also, as we talked about earlier, make sure you also document this in your own personal audit log that something happened.
Great. Mary Beth, could you take us through the next question?
Yes, I can. All right, knowledge check number 9. Which of the following best describes an ethical threat in social compliance auditing? A personal disagreement between auditors. B, worker dissatisfaction with management. C, pressure, interference, or incentives that compromise audit independence. And D, a lack of training resources at a site. Okay, we're going to go through this one fairly quickly. We have the correct answer as option C. Pressure,
And we have
interference.
this group is so sharp, 100%. Great job.
Okay, wonderful. pressure, interference, or incentives that compromise audit independence. Protecting audit integrity is every APSCA's member responsibility.
All right. Well, we don't want you to forget about Freddie, and we want you to know that the A on his chest is not just for APSCA, it's also for auditor. So let's see if you can remember the 6 steps of the Freddie action plan. We have find, report, examine, determine, draft, and your role. We have flag, remember, evaluate, decide, document, and your voice. We have focus, recall, establish, direct, describe, and your record. And the final choice, flag, react, estimate, deliver, document, and your response. Let's see how you did remembering Freddie.
And I just want to jump in here, Stefan, and thank our member auditors who have been unable to access the polls due to organisational restrictions. You've been popping your answers into the Q&A, and it's great to see such great participation and the fact that you're engaged in the questions. And we hope you've really enjoyed this level of participation. We love hearing your voices.
Thank you so much, Lisa. The correct answer here is B, and I'm glad to know 73% of you remembered Freddie really well. And for those of you who are just going to spend a little bit more time getting to know Freddie, we are really excited about bringing him to you and hope that he will be helpful to you. So if you nailed that landing and you selected answer B, you're well on your way to successfully implementing the Freddie plan and reporting through proper ethics channels. Document that you were given this instruction, noting all relevant dates and steps taken in your action plan. This was our final knowledge check question. How did you do?